Yo ho everybody, and welcome to another edition of Yinzer on Hockey. Before we begin, make sure you go down below, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, make sure you click the little bell so you stay up to date on all the off-season happenings. So today we're going to go ahead and conclude our series on the division by division off-season resets, and we are going to be taking a look at the Pacific Division. So the Pacific Division finished up Vegas Golden Knights winning the division with 109 points. Anaheim Ducks finished second with 101. San Jose third with 100. Los Angeles also made the playoffs with 98 points and finished out with Calgary at 84, Edmonton 78, Vancouver 73, and Arizona 70. So let's go ahead and take a look at the team rosters and what kind of contract situations each team is going to be dealing with in the offseason. Starting with the Vegas Golden Knights. Starting off, unrestricted free agent forwards is James Neal. That's going to be a big one for them to try and re-sign. As well as David Perron and Ryan Reeves are unrestricted free agents up front. So all three of those guys, I believe they would like to have back in Vegas, but more than likely they are only going to be able to sign maybe one or two of these forwards and maybe look outside to maybe get a little bit more scoring and maybe a little bit more physicality, because it didn't look like they had enough physicality to keep up with Washington on their dump and chase in the Cup Finals. As far as restricted free agents go, this is where the big one is. This is William Karlsson. Kind of curious as to see how they address the William Karlsson contract situation, knowing that he did score 43 goals last year. Was kind of a breakout year for him. But in the years prior with both Anaheim and Columbus, he had never really had that type of production, or really any competent level of production at all. So that kind of makes you wonder how Vegas is going to view him, whether they're viewing him as the centerpiece of their franchise and you're going to pay him the term and money, or if you're just going to, offer him a short-term contract with some guaranteed salary and then let his, see where he is in a couple of years. As far as defensemen go, unrestricted free agents Luca Sbisa and Clayton Stoner. I don't look for them to re-sign Stoner. Restricted free agent Colin Miller and Shea Theodore, both of those guys they are going to want to tender. And they're probably going to want to offer Sbisa a contract as well. He played very well for them all the way through the playoffs. He was one of their most steady defensemen in the playoffs. And if you want some more in-depth coverage on each of these key free agents, there's a channel called Vegas Golden Knights Coverage. I will link that in the description down below. He's doing a video breakdown on each of these individual free agents. So get better understanding of where Vegas fans think they need to be going in the offseason. Next up, the Anaheim Ducks. A couple of interesting contract situations for them. Unrestricted free agents Andre Case and Antoine Vermette and Chris Kelly is unrestricted up front, as well as Jason Chimera and JT Brown. No real priority signings here. Maybe guys that you bring back for some depth. Restricted free agent Nick Ritchie, they are probably definitely going to want to tender him. He's played some top 9 minutes for them in their forward groups, and even at times some top 6 minutes for them. So on the back end, unrestricted free agent Kevin Bieksa. Bieksa is a 36-year-old defenseman. I think maybe they work something out as a team-friendly deal to try and bring him back. Brandon Montour, I've read his name in some possible trade scenarios, so I'm not sure how that's going, how they're going to address that situation there. But he's definitely a pretty quality defenseman that you can rely on him for top 4 minutes. In net, still have 1 more year each with John Gibson and Ryan Miller. Both very reliable veteran goaltenders that you're going to want to, definitely be able to keep those guys next year, and they don't have to worry about doing anything with their goaltending situation. On to the San Jose Sharks. San Jose Sharks, unrestricted free agents up front, Yannick Hansen, Eric Fair, and Joel Ward. Ward was definitely an underperforming player for them this year as compared to what he was in their Stanley Cup run the year before, or 2 years ago. So there's been a pretty steady decline in his performance. I don't look for them to want to bring him back. Chris Tierney is their restricted free agent up front, as well as Thomas Hertl. Both of those guys should get tendered offers. As to whether or not any team wants to aggressively pursue them, I'm not sure about that. Also, big unrestricted free agent Joe Thornton, 38 years old. I would say it's San Jose or bust for him. I don't look for him to really go out and test the market much. He's probably going to want to come back on a team-friendly contract for them. Nothing really notable on the back end. Their defense core is pretty much going to stay in place. They do have Dylan DeMello is a restricted free agent. So not much on the back end that they really need to worry about. In goal, they have Martin Jones locked up for quite a few more years. And Aaron Dell is their number 2 goaltender. He's been a quality number 2 goaltender for them for a while, and I think they are going to continue to ride that out. Los Angeles Kings. Up front, Torrey Mitchell, unrestricted free agent, and Tobias Ryder is a restricted free agent. It's tough to say what Los Angeles does there. Nothing really stands out there. On the back end, Christian Folin, 27-year-old unrestricted free agent, as well as Kevin Gravel is also an unrestricted free agent. They may look to bring one or both of those guys back as, or bring at least one of them back probably as a 7th defenseman. Depending on whether or not they are able to work out a trade to possibly move Dion Phaneuf. He's a name that I've read as somebody that they could consider possibly trading, but that's a tough contract to try and move. I've also read Jake Muzzin's name in some trade speculation talk, so maybe they move a defenseman to try and aggressively pursue some of the bigger named free agents, but I think they're going to be in the market more for help on the front end. For Los Angeles, they will be pursuing probably every available forward until they find the one that they're able to land. And goal, they have Jonathan Quick locked up for 4 more years and won the Jennings Trophy this year. He's a phenomenal goaltender. He tried to single-handedly win the series against Vegas and just couldn't find any help. They recently acquired in a trade with the Tampa Bay Lightning to bring back Peter Budaj. Remember, he was with them a few years ago during their Stanley Cup run, so pretty solid in goal. He's definitely a great number 2. He was a good number 2 in Tampa. I felt a little bit underutilized in Tampa last year. On to the Calgary Flames. Up front for them, unrestricted free agents, Tanner Glass, Chris Stewart, Chris Versteeg, Marek Hrivik, and Matt Stajan. A lot of veteran guys that probably going to be moving on here. Not looking to bring any of those guys back. Nick Shore was acquired at the trade deadline, I think, through Ottawa, from Los Angeles through Ottawa, I think, is how he got to Calgary. And I think they'll probably tender him an offer. I think the upside for Nick Shore is great. He's a guy that you could probably slot into your top 9 within the next year or two. He'll be ready to consistently play top 9 minutes. He's been more of a fourth line guy, but I think he's got the potential to be a little bit more offensive minded and get into a top 9 role. Also, Mark Jankowski is a restricted free agent for them, and they probably are for certain going to want to tender him a contract. On the back end, Matt Barkowski is an unrestricted free agent, 30 years old. Not sure their situation with him. I haven't had a great deal of time to do a lot of the research I've needed to on Calgary, so we'll see what they want to do. But I know they want to add some scoring and want to shore up their defense and their goaltending situation for sure. They have one more year of Mike Smith at 4.25 and currently do not have a second goaltender on their roster. So they're going to want to add a veteran goaltender. I made mention in my free agent preview videos of the top 5 goaltenders out there on the market, and Calgary will definitely be actively pursuing some of those guys. On to the Edmonton Oilers. As far as free agency goes, Mike Camilleri on unrestricted free agent status. Eero Pikariren is restricted free agent. Anton Shlepchev is a restricted free agent, and Ryan Strome is a restricted free agent. I've read Strome's name coming up in a few different trade speculation articles, so possible they move him. They are looking to try and move the Milan Lucic contract out, and they have 4 more years at $6 million. So if they're able to free up that contract, I've read now that it's more that they're looking to make a hockey trade, so maybe they're willing to bring back a similar contract to Lucic. But if they are able to make a salary type trade with Milan Lucic, then they could become very active in the free agent market for forwards. On the back end, Darnell Nurse, restricted free agent. Matthew Benning as well is a restricted free agent. Both of those guys add value to your blue line, so they're guys that are probably going to get locked up for under the restricted contract. In goal, Cam Talbot, when he's healthy, he is a very reliable goaltender. Played very well for them last year, all the way to the Western Conference Finals. To the second round. I believe they lost to Anaheim in the second round last season. So Talbot's a very good goaltender. Montoya spent most of their time as the number 2. I do think that they'll want to move Montoya if they can find somebody and bring in a younger, steady goaltender to be behind Cam Talbot, just because of the injury risk with Cam Talbot. On to the Vancouver Canucks. Interesting situation with them. Both the Sedin brothers retired this year, so you got 2 big roles to fill, not only for the minutes and what they did on the ice, but you got to fill that veteran presence, and this is a young team that's really going to need to have that veteran leadership in the locker room to help them progress to the next level. As far as expiring contract situations, you have Jussi Jokinen, unrestricted free agent, 35 years old. They never really got as much production as Jokinen has provided for other teams in the past, so they might want to move on from him. Nick Dowd, Darren Archibald, both unrestricted free agents. They'll probably explore their options outside of Vancouver, because Vancouver is going to want to go younger and a bit faster to compete with kind of the newer style of team that Vegas has brought to the West is a faster pace of hockey that the Pacific Division wasn't really used to playing. And I think a lot of teams are going to trend in that direction. Restricted free agents, Marcus Granlund and Sven Berchi. I hope I'm pronouncing that one right. Both 25 years old. Granlund, one of the most versatile forwards in the game. Really going to want to lock him up, as well as Jake Virtanen, young prospect with a lot of upside, a lot of potential to be a mainstay in their roster. They might want to bring him back. On the back end, Derek Pouliot. I know a lot about Pouliot from his time in Pittsburgh. He has potential to be a top 4 defenseman. He just lacks that offensive presence that you want from your top 4 defenseman, but pretty steady in his own zone, and he's a guy that you would like to see them lock up and get a chance to play really, really solid minutes for them. Troy Stasher, also a restricted free agent for them. Maybe a 7th D type guy that you could bring in, compete for a roster spot. Maybe bring him in on a 2-way deal, let him spend a little bit more time down in their AHL system. Goaltending, they have Anders Nilsson and Jacob Markstrom both signed for a couple of more years. I know Vancouver would like to upgrade their goaltending, as well as maybe upgrade their defensive core. I've heard rumors of Christopher Tanev being offered in various trade speculations. I've also heard rumors that the number 7 overall draft pick is being rumored in various trade circle conversations. So we'll see what they decide to go with there, and see what they do moving forward and how they progress next season. But a pretty open amount of cap space to go after, some of the bigger free agents if they needed to move some contracts around if they needed to. On to the Arizona Coyotes. Unrestricted free agents, Brad Richardson, 33 years old. He's one of those veteran guys, plays kind of a role player slot there. I could see them bringing him back one more year, just to help, continue molding these younger guys. Max Domi, restricted free agent, as well as Freddie Hamilton, restricted free agent, and Laurent Dauphin. The big speculation here is that they wanted to move Max Domi if they could, that they weren't very content with his production last year, and there's been quite a bit of fall off from his rookie year to the last couple of seasons. I think the upside for Domi, if you get him, some good, solid playmaking line mates, that he could be a 25-30 consistent 25-30 goal scoring guy. Put him in that 50-60 point range, and there's not a lot more that you can ask for that. A guy that is probably going to be a second line guy in most situations. I think they would be content getting 60 to 70 points out of him. On the back end, so recently the Ekman-Larsson deal was announced. The tentative agreement for 8 years, 8.25 annual value is the speculation there. So they got him locked up. Probably going to be wearing the C on his chest this year for them, so that's a great deal for them. Luke Shen, unrestricted free agent, 28 years old. I would think they would want to bring him back. He's a guy that adds value to your blue line, definitely in a top 4 role. And then they'll be looking to bolster their defense probably through the draft. Goaltending, Antti Ranta, when he was healthy last year, he was one of the best goaltenders in the league. Darcy Kemper, very solid backup, was a solid backup his time in Chicago. And I think they're pretty set in goal. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think these Pacific Division teams need to do to get themselves over the proverbial hump, whatever the next step they may be looking to take. For those top teams, they're looking to progress further in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and these younger teams looking to get into that race. So what do they need to do? Is there any big name free agents out there that you'd like to see on any of these teams? And is there any of these free agents that, you know, maybe you place a bit more value on than I may have considered? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the video below. I'd love to have more conversations with you guys in the comment section. And until next time, have a good day.